Bettor Sports Betting is your home for picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. Appreciate everyone jumping in wherever you're watching on YouTube. We got Jon Impemba with me on this Halloween version of Bettor Sports Betting, the NFL trade deadline version, the James Harden trade version of the show. What's up, John?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Been a little bit of a wild day. Obviously, I woke up this morning like really early. The dog was making some noise, and I just kind of roll over, look at my phone, and see a 230 Woj bomb from that James Harden was being dealt to the Clippers. So that's how my day started, and then we've progressively gone through this day where the Commanders are trading off two of their best defensive linemen. Fortunately enough for me as a Patriots fan, ahead of the week they played New England. So Mac Jones, two less men to worry about putting him on his back this weekend. But yeah, it's been a pretty interesting day today.
Yeah, we got word that Mac Jones is not on the move, or the Patriots are not acquiring any quarterback.
They're not making any moves according to the latest report here. So we'll see if something trickles in. The 4 o'clock just hit now, so the deadline has passed. But as we know, sometimes these deals get reported a few minutes after the fact. So.
Yeah, we'll be covering it all on here, reacting to some of these NFL trades that went down today, and just how to, maybe the betting impact side of things of how we view these teams going forward. But some interesting moves that we'll get to in a sec. We will have some World Series Game 4 bets and props to give out to everyone for tonight's game, and also some NBA bets for a little 3-game slate. But we got Wemby in action against the Suns. That should be a good watch tonight. So we'll give out some bets for that. If you have your own picks, as always, throw them in the chat here on YouTube to see what you guys are riding tonight or this week, or any reaction to any of these trades that went down. Definitely welcome everyone's opinions. It's not just me and John's ears. But let's start with that James Harden trade and touch on that before we get to some NFL trades. Because I just find this trade very interesting. I am a Philly guy, a Sixers fan, so I was kind of waiting for them to trade Harden away at some point, and finally it came this morning, as you mentioned, early in the morning. You can see here on the screen, these are the trade details. So the Clippers get Harden, they get PJ Tucker too in the deal, and then the 76ers get a lot of players and a few picks from the Clippers. A lot of the Clippers rotation guys, though, as you can see, Batum, Covington, Morris, KJ Martin. So, but Harden, obviously the big name here. Wanted to just start with the Clippers side of things for this. I mean, I feel like we've touched on this show previously, just talking about when or if Harden might be traded and if he goes to the Clippers. But what does this do for kind of like your expectations for the Clippers being, are they real contenders in the West now, moving forward, or title contenders for that matter?
My biggest worry now is they just traded away all of their forward depth.
Yes.
they got PJ Tucker. So PJ Tucker's probably now locked into 30 plus minutes a night here for the Clippers, because they don't really have much else. I mean, they signed Josh Primo in the offseason. He's still kind of working through his stuff. He's more of a guard, though, than like a small forward. They have Norman Powell, who's their sixth man as it is, so he can fill in the small forward. They drafted Kobe Brown in the first round this year. I don't think they had any expectations of him playing a bunch of minutes, but outside of Tucker and Powell, they don't really have much else in their front court. They have Amir Coffey, who's more of a tweener, 2 and 3. They also have Jordan Miller, who's again a young kid that they have from this draft class. But Batum was playing a lot of minutes for them. Marcus Morris is expected to play a lot of minutes for them. Covington had started for them already. So I worry about their wing depth when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard have their injury issues as it is. And there's no way we're expecting them to play 82 this year. So it feels like maybe another shooter is to eventually drop on that team. It also wouldn't shock me. I mean, now Philly has too many front court players. So maybe Philly buys out a Covington or a Batum or something like that and Marcus Morris, and they kind of make their way back to LA. It wouldn't surprise me if something like that happened. But now, again, Batum, Covington, and Morris all play the same position as well. They're power forwards, small forwards. They were using Batum as a small ball center at times in with the Clippers here. So, they have Paul Reed in Philly. They have Tobias Harris in Philly. Korkmaz, apparently, I saw a story today, was like petitioning to get traded because he's just out of their rotation. And Philly said no, and the Clippers said, we don't want you. So I don't really understand that either. I mean, you would have thought you would have at least taken a body if that was the case. But listen, I thought the West, when we did the NBA preview show, myself, Grande, and Justin Fensterman, I picked the Clippers as like one of the long shot title contenders with their odds baked in, not yet accounting for the eventual James Harden deal. James Harden deal came through. So now we'll see. We'll see what that team looks like here, moving forward. But I did not expect what they dealt to be dealt. KJ Martin, I think, is a really good player.
He's a solid role player. Yeah.
I thought KJ Martin would have been a guy that if they did move a trade like that, trading Covington, Batum, and Morris for Harden makes sense. KJ Martin's probably the only useful player the 76ers might have gotten there in terms of like a potential, upside play. We know what Marcus Morris, Batum, and Covington are. They're all in the bottom half of their career. KJ Martin flashed some nice potential with Houston. Now given an opportunity maybe to crack that rotation for the 76ers, who have Jalen McDaniels already, but they're not really playing him at all. So very interested to see how that goes, but I was surprised to see Martin be dealt in that deal.
Yeah, and the updated West odds, the Nuggets still the betting favorite at plus 280, the Suns at plus 300, not far behind. But then for third, it is the Clippers and Warriors, both at plus 700 over on BetMGM Sportsbook. I'm looking Lakers at plus 900, but
weren't they much longer odds when we did this?
They were, so that definitely shortened. They were behind. I feel like the Warriors
were like 4,000, weren't they? Weren't they like plus 4,000 or something like that? Like I felt like
you know what? I actually saved all of our that preview show just to see where you guys were standing. Let me pull that up real quick to see what your odds were when you locked that one in. But they
were deep.
Yeah, they were deep though. All right, pulling it up right now. The great radio.
You look at it. I'll just say Harden. You got him? Okay.
Yeah, I got it. So you had the Clippers were at plus 1,000 to win the West.
Okay.
And plus 2,000 to win the NBA title. And they're now NBA title odds are plus 1,300. So both have shortened a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Which I'm not surprised at. But I think I said this on that show, and I've said it many times with Harden. If maybe I'm a bitter Sixers fan, but just seeing him underperform in the playoffs, I feel like he doesn't, make them an instant title contender. Just because
he had the biggest losers in the NBA on the same team again, and Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So
that dynamic's interesting because there was like a situation when they played in Houston. Westbrook requested a trade and wanted out because he kind of clashed with Harden there. Yeah. So we'll see if they can coexist. It is crazy to think about how this Clippers team has Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook all on the same team now. You would have said that like 10 years ago. It's just
10 years ago they had 4 All-Stars. This year they have 2. So
yeah. It's also obviously I think insurance because of like Kawhi's injury problems lately. Same thing with Paul George. Like if one of these guys has to miss extended time, then now you have Harden to kind of step in and be like the alpha. Which we'll see how that goes. But you mentioned the Sixers side of things. There's like 2 ways I think they go now. Because I feel like another trade might be coming for them. Because whether they look to buy out some of these guys they got, or they're going to try to package some of them to get, like a Pascal Siakam's been a name thrown out there that could be on the move. To get like a third guy with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
I was going to say it makes Tobias Harris a bit more expendable because you have so much front court depth. But
yeah,
again, I don't know where the value comes to. I mean, it's great for Maxey. I mean, there was, the comments in the offseason of Joel Embiid, sounding less enthused to be in Philly than he has been before, So
that's the other direction I was going to mention.
Do the full rebuild here.
Yeah.
And build around Maxey for now, right? And move on from Embiid.
So that's the other direction. If they, if they choose to go that way, a lot of the guys they brought on with this trade and like Tobias Harris too are on expiring contracts. So if that's a situation where they want to just kind of rebuild and look to next year and the year after and build around Maxey and give him like a max contract.
You got to be talking to Embiid to be like, we'll do what the Bucks just did for Lillard. You stay here, you have Maxey. We'll have enough money for a max contract guy next year, and we'll bring in.
Well, who's that going to be though? I actually don't know. Who's the star that they might?
I'm not actually. I'm not sure, but I know there's always. I'll pull it up here. I know there's always guys kind of on the horizon. That could be those max contract players that become available, whether it be sign and trade. Siakam is an unrestricted free agent. He'll probably be a max contract guy. I don't know if that's enough to push him over the top here. I don't know who could potentially opt out, but Tyrese Maxey is a restricted free agent, so he'll probably have to get his max deal there. DeMar DeRozan's a UFA. Could be a deal to take a peek at. Let's see. Any of these other names popping off this list?
The tough part about this, by the way, is that this trade just came too late for the Sixers' timing. Like, if they got this a month ago, maybe they'd be in the sweepstakes to get Dame Lillard. Package a lot of these guys that they just traded for with some picks and get Dame Lillard, or for Drew Holiday that the Celtics kind of swooped in after that trade and got Drew Holiday, but I feel like the Sixers would have been, contenders to get Holiday after that Dame Lillard trade. So
yes, Siakam and DDR are the two biggest unrestricted free agents that'll be entering this market. So, both of them will get big money. So those could be the two ads. Again, does that fit well with the team? I mean, does a Maxey DeRozan Embiid or a Maxey Siakam Embiid feel like that contends in the East? Maybe. I mean, Max is like an absolute stud.
I have seen that side. The Bulls, maybe, DeRozan, Zach LaVine, going to Philly at some point. We'll see.
Yeah.
I will say going forward, we're going to give out some bets for tonight. The Sixers are not playing tonight, but if they were, I'd be hammering Tyrese Maxey props going forward. And any games
plays that man 45 minutes a night. He's going to do it for the rest of the season.
And it's him and Embiid just letting them cook, basically. And Maxey, I mean, he's looked really good so far this year. And I've went over on his props that the Sixers have played already with Harden out. And now that he is for sure gone, this is Maxey's green light to just kind of light it up. So I love his props going forward. And it's just a mess of power forwards on this team outside of Embiid and Maxey. So it's going to be interesting to see how that rotation shakes out. I'm sure you'll be keeping an eye on it for DFS purposes. And if you guys are betting on the Sixers or the Clippers to see how these rotations shake out. We have the Clippers playing tonight, actually. I don't think Harden's not going to be playing for them tonight, right? Or Tucker for that matter. So we'll see what happens with their rotation, I guess, for this short term. Again, we'll get to some NBA bets in just a little bit here. Let's talk NFL trade deadline because we had a bunch of interesting moves today. No huge names, but we'll start with, I guess, the biggest fantasy impact and also just pure impact based on the Kirk Cousins injury was that the Vikings made a trade with the Cardinals to get Josh Dobbs to bring in as their quarterback. I assume maybe not this week, but the next week that he'll be the starter because it's Jaron Hall, I guess, besides him, the rookie out of BYU, to be their quarterback.
Jaron Hall, so
okay, so this week, but I mean, I would assume Dobbs. I mean, he's not great, but it is an older, more experienced quarterback under center now. So if we're talking, once Justin Jefferson returns from his injury, looking at his props and looking at him for DFS or for fantasy. Or just the Vikings moving forward. I know if they didn't make a move for a quarterback and it was Jaron Hall, I'd be looking to fade the Vikings every week. But They could be, the Cardinals have been like a kind of a feisty
Yeah.
team. Dobbs kind of surprising and covering spreads as underdogs. So I feel like the Vikings could be in a similar spot.
Yeah, again, I think that given the state of the quarterback position, Dobbs certainly, I made a quote tweet on today about how everybody's actually excited about Josh Dobbs being your team starting quarterback, because that's just how bad the situation's gone, in the NFL. It's like being excited about Jacoby Brissett being your starting quarterback, which is kind of a similar
Yeah.
comparison. He's a guy that is completing less than 63% of his passes on the year. He's at a less than 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's throwing for like 200 yards a game. His numbers aren't great, but it's like the alternative was very bad. So I agree with you. I think there's going to be weeks where you're not completely dumping now Hawkinson and Addison. We just saw Trey McBride have 10 for 96 last week. Hawkinson could just be in for an absolute monster target share with Dobbs at quarterback. Hollywood Brown's been a pretty serviceable fantasy wide receiver. Addison could still very well be that guy with Dobbs there. Dobbs brings some mobility to the game as well. Definitely Cousins didn't have that working for him, so it changes their offense dynamic a little bit there. So, yeah, I'm with you. We had some people in our Discord today, what do I do with this news here? I'm like, you're probably okay. Now, he's not going to go throw for 350 yards and 50 times like Kirk Cousins was. You have to temper that expectation. But they're going to definitely still be a viable play each and every week, those guys here.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you mentioned the McBride. Like, that was one, in the recent games, just looking at his props, the fantasy angle for sure. But, like, his props, I was like, oh, go over on McBride's props because he's, Dobbs is looking for his tight ends and with Ertz out. But, I feel like Hawkinson's going to be in a great spot. We'll see what they do with Justin Jefferson returning soon. There was some talk of whether maybe they just kind of redshirt him basically for this year.
They still might
if
they don't come back from their bye till week 14. They have a bye in week 13. If by week 13 they've lost the next 3 weeks, they may just hang it up.
Shut them down. So,
we'll see.
The Vikings also, they traded away offensive guard Ezra Cleveland today, which is interesting. To Jacksonville though, which I think it's big for Jacksonville because Ezra Cleveland's a solid guard, especially a run blocking offensive lineman there. And listen, the Jags have been rolling, in what, a 4 or 5 game win streak now, and their trajectory, like they're clear favorites in this division, obviously in the AFC South. But I feel like this is a huge boost to their O-line, which they had a couple injuries on the O-line this year. So this is a really good depth piece for the Jaguars.
Yeah, listen, I think what's interesting is the fact that Minnesota's ran the ball so poorly this year, and then they would trade away one of their best offensive linemen. So, I don't see them now improving their rushing game. Conversely, you mentioned Jacksonville in their current win streak here. It's really no thanks to the quarterback. Trevor Lawrence really hasn't been doing much of anything here this season. But Travis Etienne has just been going off, and now you're improving that offensive line because maybe that's just a little bit more self-awareness, right? It's like, all right, we have Trevor Lawrence. We expected him to take this step forward this year, getting him Calvin Ridley, and that really hasn't been the case. He's been good, but he hasn't been great. He hasn't lost us games, but we certainly can't say that he's won us games. However, Travis Etienne is running all over the place here, so we improve that offensive line. Now we just sort of focus on being a defensive run team with a quarterback that we know is more than capable of getting us down the field and in position to score. I like the move. Good on Jacksonville here to get that offensive line improvement.
And then the Commanders trading away Chase Young and Montez Sweat from the defensive line. Chase Young going to the 49ers. Huge addition for their really good defense and defensive line. And now you add Chase Young to that mix. Him and Bosa basically opposite sides. Hargrave is a really good pass rushing inside defensive lineman for them. Like their D line. I mean, this defense was obviously so elite, and now you add Chase Young to the mix. It's like that's scary. And then Montez Sweat going to the Bears, which is interesting because the Bears, their defense has been terrible. So I get why they maybe want to add a defensive lineman, but interesting that they would add Montez Sweat at the trade deadline here. But yeah, any thoughts on the Chase? I mean, listen, Chase Young to the 49ers is obviously the big headliner and big for like the 49ers, because they've lost a few games here, they're looking at just bolster, I guess, both sides of the line there, but obviously do it here with Chase Young.
What I'm surprised about is one that Montez went for a second, while Chase Young only went for a third round. They weren't able to get better or comparable draft pick compensation for Chase Young that they got from Montez Sweat. The other thing is that if they let both players just go in free agency, they would have got compensation picks, a third round compensation pick for both. So they essentially traded Chase Young to the 49ers for a third round pick, which they would have gotten anyways if he just hit free agency. However, now the 49ers are actually going to get the comp pick if Chase Young goes away in free agency. So they're almost trading for Chase Young for nothing because they'll get the third round comp pick when he leaves. So great deal for San Francisco for sure. I'm not really sure what the Commanders are doing. Their secondary, secondary's been bad. Emmanuel Forbes has not been great as their first round pick this year at corner. Now they got rid of their two best pass rushers. So, if you're sell mode here, great, you got a second and a third, but you would have gotten 2/3 just letting them go anyways. So I don't know. I don't feel like they got much of value here in those picks.
Yeah, and listen, on the Commanders side of things, like the fact that their D line just got notably worse now, that was like their strength. That was able to keep them in games. I just saw them play against the Eagles, and their D line was really frustrated, got in Hurts' face, but like that was what kind of kept them more competitive this year. So I think those are big losses, and going forward, probably going to be fading the Commanders, like with game bets, opposing running backs, looking at their props.
They played the Patriots this week again. So like I was already very worried about that game because the Patriots, I just don't trust anyways. And Sam Howell's managed to look competitive at times. But I thought, man, the Patriots offensive line is so bad. How are they supposed to handle Chase Young and Montez Sweat? And then they traded them both. So I feel maybe Mac Jones will find some time this week. And I know how bad those corners are. So we'll see how that game plays out now.
The Lions trade for wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones from the Cleveland Browns. Nothing like, I don't think this moves the needle so much, but it is, I guess, just another, he's a solid run blocking wide receiver, which I guess is what the Lions are looking for. But, in terms of, I don't think he's going to be too involved in the passing game, but I mean, he's a solid like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 for the Lions. And the Browns just, it's interesting though that the Browns would give him away, trade him away. I guess they just didn't really see too much value in him to keep him around. But so that's an interesting move. But the Lions, another team, it's seeing them, the 49ers, the Jaguars, some of these top teams involved at the trade deadline making some additions. Another one was the Bills. Rasul Douglas, the cornerback, goes to the Bills from the Packers, which I think is notable because, they lost Tre'Davious White for the season-ending injury. And their defense has, it's suffered in recent games, especially with Matt Milano out too for them. But I think getting a corner in Rasul Douglas, who's not an awesome corner, but just getting a capable, he's getting a solid corner for to replace White because their defense had been kind of costing them in recent weeks.
Yeah, one of the reasons I actually always worry about Green Bay is they always talk about like, oh, which guy is Jair Alexander going to be covering? It's like, well, Rasul Douglas is still like a pretty solid cornerback, so you weren't really getting relief like going with the other wide receiver 2 on the team that was going up against Green Bay there. So now that they're moving away from him, it definitely makes their pass defense a little worse. And yeah, Buffalo, much like the 49ers even, have had some trouble in their secondary lately. Now Buffalo's dealing with the injuries. The 49ers secondary just seemingly is bad. Howard Bender called that out last week. He was all in on the Bengals, loved their passing offense. I was skeptical. It's like, I don't know, the 49ers, man, they're still the 49ers. I feel like they have a pretty good defense overall. And while their defensive line is great, their secondary is not good. So we'll see if the pass rush can continue to help them. I do want to go back to that Donovan Peoples-Jones trade, though, because I think that one is a bit interesting for the Lions here. Because Jameson Williams, Coop actually tweeted this one out. He's now dropped more catchable balls than he has caught in terms of advanced metrics. which is not good. So I think that he had some pretty bad drops last night. Josh Reynolds had that fumble last night and only had one catch after that, or only one catch in that game. So, Donovan Peoples-Jones last year had a lot of success with Jacoby Brissett at the quarterback. Deshaun Watson came in, and we know that offense kind of tanked down a little bit here. But, I think DPJ is kind of an interesting spot if he can kind of get into this Lions offense and becomes – I think there's a path to being the number 2 wide receiver in this team. Josh Reynolds, to me, isn't a talent that can't be replaced. Jameson Williams, like I said, hasn't shown much of anything. Marvin Williams is away from the team right now. DBJ could be a guy that in a couple of weeks, all of a sudden you see 50, 60% snap share playing next to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Jameson Williams, has not totally lived up to his draft stock. With injury obviously last year, but coming along kind of slow this year. I agree with you though. I mean, because last night we saw in that Lions game, Khalif Raymond, how much he was involved in that offense.
He's a gadget guy.
If you give some of those,
nobody else. So.
Yeah, if you give Peoples-Jones some of the Raymond or Josh Reynolds snaps or Jameson Williams snaps, then it should be an upgrade, especially if he's a better run blocker with how good their run game looked last night and this season.
And I'm curious now with DPJ out if Cedric Tillman gets a bump. They drafted him in the 4th. I think it was the 4th round this past year, but guy doesn't really see much of the field here. But obviously now there's a role, whether it's Bell, who they drafted last year, or Tillman this year. One of those two guys may be seeing some increased playing time here behind obviously Cooper and Elijah Moore.
The Cedric Tillman, I mean, that guy was a great talent at Tennessee, and David Bell too the year before. So good chance for any of those guys to step up. And then the last deal we'll touch on here, there were some other minor trades, especially in the last couple of days. The Eagles got Kevin Byard from the Titans, but today, or I guess last night, we had Leonard Williams, defensive lineman, go into the Seahawks from the Jets, or from the Giants rather. Another team that just kind of bolsters their line. These defensive and offensive line moves at the deadline, I feel like cannot go overlooked because it's just a lot of these games are won and lost in the trenches, and you get another solid defensive lineman, veteran guy in Leonard Williams to really take on that Seattle D line. So I think it's a great addition by Seattle, who they're right there with the 49ers in this NFC West division.
I think Pete Carroll is doing a great job rebuilding that defense. They went those Super Bowl years with the Legion of Boom. Weatherspoon has been an animal, just flying around all over that secondary. You rebuild that defensive line. They got some great, up and coming linebackers there for them as well. Then you look at that offense. Their offense hasn't popped as much as people thought it would. Now, I was always a little bit skeptical about Geno Smith coming into this year. Last year just felt like the perfect storm of just success, and you can't take it away from what he did last year. But this year clearly has been taking a step back in the production. Metcalf has been fine. Lockett's been fine. JSN has had his moments. But the running game, again, is really what has been carrying the production of this team. Kenneth Walker has been an absolute animal, especially when they get in the red zone. So if they go back to that hard grind running attack with a really good defense and allow Geno Smith to sort of manage and be a threat that teams have to worry about, but not think they can, focus on, I think Seattle is kind of rebuilding itself here under Pete.
Yeah, I'm looking at their defense, and it's just a really good mix of young and older veteran talent that they have with Jamal Adams, making moves, whether it's for the draft or with these trades. Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, that trade too, recently bringing back Bobby Wagner.
He's a good defensive coach, man. He identifies the talent that he needs on that team.
Yeah. So I already saw the Seattle just taking them a lot more seriously now that they've kind of hit their stride, and this just helps even more. As long as Geno Smith doesn't, he's been serviceable. I thought he would take a step back from how good he was last year, but he's been a very serviceable starter for them. And as long as he keeps on that train and they ride the running game with Walker and Charbonnet, they're going to be tough to bet against this year. I know that. So that's some trade deadline moves. Nothing else that squeaked out. I was looking to see if any other moves trickled out past the deadline, which was at 4 p.m. Eastern.
I told you
before
that the 49ers apparently had a deal that was being worked on.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the deal. It's you can never know with the new Twitter. But this is saying that the Giants and 49ers were working on a deal for Dory Jackson, but weren't able to get it in on time. So, we'll see. Okay. But, that was one of the very...
You were mentioning the 49ers secondary.
Yeah, so one of the 49ers beat writers said he was hearing that they were working on a deal, and that was a deal that just got tweeted out that wasn't able to get completed in time. So that would have definitely met their secondary needs if that was a trade that was being reported on being worked on.
All right. So those are some of the trades that went down in the NFL today. We'll see how any of this impacts, this week, but also beyond, just futures for any of these teams. All right, let's do some World Series Game 4 tonight. We got the Diamondbacks Rangers. Been a really fun series to watch. Rangers winning last night to now take the 2-1 series lead for tonight. We got a little bullpen game action for both teams. It looks like Joe Mantiply starting for the Diamondbacks and Andrew Heaney starting for the Rangers. Might not go too long. I'll start out with one of my bets with the whole bullpen game in mind. I'm taking the under in this, under 9.5. I just think that both teams are going to really game plan and really play matchups a lot to limit both offenses here. In the first 2 games of the series, we saw some higher scoring games, but last night it was the offense was limited. I feel like it's going to be the same vibe here, a 3-1, 4-1 final or something like that. Even like 5-2 hits this under. I just don't, the 9.5 is just a little too high for me, especially, on the Diamondback side of things. Starting Joe Mantiply, who's only going to go 1 inning probably to, on the lefty side. And then they're going to bring in relievers. I saw this when they played the Phillies in the NLCS, where they really used their bullpen very effectively when they did their bullpen game, and it limited the Phillies offense. They played a lot of good matchups. They brought in guys at the right times, took out the relievers at the right times. I feel like they're going to do that with the Rangers here, especially haven't seen a lineup yet for the Rangers, but Adolis Garcia left last night's game with a bad swing. And I feel like there was a chance that he might sit. Still don't see a lineup for them. So we'll see if he's in the lineup or not. But I think there's a good chance he's actually out tonight because he left that game early with a back injury, it looked like. So I think it just downgrades the Rangers offense overall. But also just on the Diamondback side of things, I just see them being a little bit limited with Andrew Heaney probably going for 3 innings from the left side. Then they bring in probably Dane Dunning from the right, flip the order. And I just think it's going to limit the offense on both sides of things.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Again, just the way they move these things around here, you'd expect the matchups to kind of limit the runs being scored. And then you've talked a lot about, how we feel this series would have gone earlier. I think Arizona for me has, I think have come as far as they could. Congrats that they made it this far. They even stole a game in this series, but I would be surprised to see them be much more competitive, I think, moving forward here. So I like the under runs in this one. I think Texas is probably going to take this one tonight as well. But for my bet for today, I'm going to go Corey Seager over the 1.5 total bags. You're getting at -110. A guy that just,
he's
absolute animal. So I see the 110. I mean, a guy that's been hitting home runs in this series. I'm gonna roll that one and almost even money.
I don't mind that at all. Even though I got the under, I could see him hitting a homer. I could see him hitting 2 doubles in this game. Like that guy is just on fire. If the Diamondbacks don't pitch around him, then he's probably hitting an extra base hit at some point.
Hardest, what they say. StatCast had that home run as the hardest homer ever hit in the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah. Before the World Series started, we kind of went through, I think it was with, I don't think you were on the show, but we went through some World Series MVPs and who could win it. I think it was with Howard. And Seager was the rightful favorite, betting favorite, still plus money, but just how locked in he is, and a guy that won a World Series MVP with the Dodgers earlier. So he knows what to do on this stage. So love that call. I'm going with Andrew Heaney under 9.5 outs. Actually couldn't find it on BetMGM, but if you look at different sports books, it's out there. But it's a low number. I get that. 9.5 means we're counting on them not going past the third inning here. But I just think it's happening because of just how the Rangers are going to play things. They're going to look to get Heaney in there for 2 to 3 innings to make him go through the Diamondbacks order once and maybe just the first couple batters a second time, like seeing Corbin Carroll from the left side a second time, him and Ketel Marte at the top of the Diamondbacks order. But I just don't think that's going to come past the third inning. I could see the Diamondbacks getting a runner or two on. So just the way the math works.
The last couple of times you and I have been on here, you've taken the under Heaney. It's like, yeah, but like, what if he gets going and then like it doesn't matter? They just pull him. They just take him out. They don't.
That's what they need. This is what they do with him. They don't want him to go. He's not stretched out. Like he's not a stretched out full starter for them right now. He late in the year when he came to the Rangers, they weren't throwing him, more than 4 innings at a time anyway, when his regular starts were coming up. But in the postseason, this is what they've done with him, just trying to get him through the order once. And then, as I mentioned, bringing in Dane Dunning, a righty, to kind of flip the order for the Diamondbacks. In the bulk role. So I just think it's going to happen again here. And 9.5 outs is low, but it's still, if he goes 3 innings, we're still cashing this.
Yeah, 100%. So again, I'm done arguing the what ifs when it comes to that play because just hasn't come through for me.
You don't want to look at Andrew Heaney to get a win
No,
here?
not today.
I remember you threw that out.
Definitely not in this game either. I'm not going there for any of them. I'm going to take a player that's struggled the last couple of games here, but we're getting plus odds on him. So Corbin Carroll, plus 125, over 1.5 total bags. Again, he hit the over on this one in game 1. We know he has power. He has extra base ability. He's a really great contact hitter anyways. And like you mentioned, Heaney's going to be out there at least for 1 inning, so he'll get the lefty-lefty matchup. But after that, they're going to flip it around. So I'm not really worried about a long-term lefty matchup for Carroll here. Even if he hits lefties all pretty well anyway. So give me Corbin over the 1.5 total bags for plus 125 tonight.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's hitting second too in the order after Ketel Marte is a boost for him. Just the fact that he can hit behind Marte after pitchers are going to try to maybe not have Marte burn them as much because he's been on fire for them, so that they're going to pitch to Carroll for sure. So those are some picks for World Series Game 4. Should be a fun game to watch tonight as you're watching some NBA, which let's get to some NBA now because we got just about 3 games tonight on the NBA slate. If you want some fire bets, go check out Iggy Gilbert's article over on fantasyalarm.com right now. You got to get the All-Pro subscription, but it's been worth it because this guy has been cashing bets all season long that he's been writing for us. Props, game bets. He's got everything in there. He's got same game parlays for tonight. So definitely check out his article tonight if you want some bets because I wasn't going to throw out his picks here because you got to get the All-Pro subscription. Right. But again, he's cashing right now. He's throwing out some winners left and right, and he's really seeing things well. So go check out that article over on Fantasy Alarm. Our bets for tonight, though, I'll give out one. We got the Suns Spurs tonight. Victor Wembanyama on the court for the Spurs. As good as talented he is, as awesome he is to watch, he's had some turnover issues early here in his career. And I'm going over his 3.5 turnovers on BetMGM, plus 110. In the first 3 games, he's had 4, 5, and 5 turnovers in these first 3. They're letting him just kind of go, make mistakes on the fly. They're letting him kind of go through his own growing pains. It's resulting in turnovers. It's also resulting in a lot of highlights, a lot of 3-point shots, a lot of good stats on paper. But the turnovers have been there, and I feel like that's just going to keep coming, especially here against the Suns team that they have a bunch of veterans on this roster that are I think, going to force Wemby into mistakes.
I was saying on the
least...
DFS show this morning, this is going to be the first matchup for Wembanyama where he can go up against somebody that is, sort of the same player, right? Kevin Durant, when he came into the league, was Wembanyama, right? Everybody looked at Durant, they're like, a 7-footer that can dribble and shoot like this and have the handles and pass and play defense and all these things. That was KD, right? And KD came into the league probably a more polished player than Wembanyama is right now. So, he's going to have that defensive matchup, and KD's going to be on him defensively tonight. I don't think Victor's going to have a fun time. I don't think with the lessons Durant's going to teach him here. So,
yeah, I think Durant's going to really take it upon himself to try to shut down Wemby.
He's
here,
the Durantula,
or just
there's a reason he has the name.
His defensive chops are still very much there for Durant. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, give me the over on Wemby's turnover.
I like that one. For me, I'm going to go Donovan Mitchell over 31.5 points, minus 115 here. Darius Garland's already been ruled out. Now Karis LeVert is also questionable here for tonight. If you want to go last year when Garland was out of the lineup, he had a 36% usage rate. This year he's got a 34% usage rate in the one game that he missed and a couple games where he was off the floor. So just immense usage rate here for Donovan Mitchell when Garland's off the floor. Got a matchup here against the Knicks, who Jalen Brunson's an undersized guard. Emmanuel quickly doesn't play a lot of defense when he is out there. So I just think Mitchell is going to be taking a whole bunch of shots here tonight against the Knicks. And even if he's not efficient, he's going to go ahead and get it. So,
yeah, I'm with you on that. With all the missing pieces for the Cavs tonight, it should be a lot of Donovan Mitchell scoring the ball there. And for a similar reason, I'm going with the Knicks money line in that game. I got it at minus 140 on BetMGM. It's at minus 155 now, but I'd still take it there because I just think this is going to be a Knicks win because they're without Garland, as you mentioned, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert now ruled out. It just really hurts the bench depth for the Cavaliers compared to a Knicks team that has a really good bench with Quickly coming off the bench and leading that unit. Yeah. I feel like this is just a significant advantage for the Knicks here tonight. And I see the Cavaliers, by the way, 0-3 against the spread this year. The Knicks are only 1-2 against the spread, but the Cavs 0-3 against the spread and have not covered as underdogs too. So give me the Knicks money line. You can look at the spread too, but just give me the money line for them to win outright.
Yeah, again, just missing some key pieces here. LeVert's still questionable, but downgraded questionable today. So usually when a daytime downgrade happens, it seems unlikely that those guys suit up. So just the lack of overall depth that they have. No Jared Allen tonight as well. He's been out since the game 2 or game 3 of the season here. So I like the Knicks play here. I'm going to stay with the Knicks. I'm going to go with Emmanuel quickly off their bench, over 11.5 points here. Went over that easy in game 1, has come close in games 2 and 3, hasn't got over it yet. But again, just looking at the depleted backcourt here for Cleveland and the lack of rim protection outside of Mobley. I mean, no Jared Allen changes a lot of things, the way the teams attack this Cavs. When Mobley and Allen are in there, you can't get to the rim. Both those guys just block everything. But I think Quickly gets it done here tonight, going over the total.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you because, as I mentioned, the Cavs bench is just taking a real hit in these recent games with all those starters out, Garland, Allen, and especially if LeVert is out too tonight. It should be a lot of Quickly going against an easy bench unit for the Knicks or for the Cavs. So, I'm with you on that. That'll help my Knicks money line. So why not?
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so those are some bets for tonight's NBA action. Appreciate everyone jumping in here on a Tuesday afternoon, talking some NFL trade deadline, the James Harden trade as well. If you missed any of that talk, you can go rewind on the YouTube video as you're watching here. Tonight we got the better cast for the Knicks Celtics game. That's not tonight. Sorry. Maybe the Knicks Cavs game is the better cast, but either way, over on fantasyalarm.com, we got plenty of content for you guys for tonight's NHL DFS, NBA DFS, the World Series, all this awesome stuff, fantasy football for this week. So definitely check all that out. And coming up tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, we will have this show again, giving some early leans for NFL Week 9. Me and Howard Bender giving out some early thoughts, maybe these trades will have some impact on some of our thoughts and picks as well. So definitely tune in there and see where we're going. John, awesome stuff as always. You're up next, by the way, the NBA DFS show with Grande. So I'll let you go for that because a lot of NBA talk for these 3 games. I'm sure you'll have Quickly and Donovan Mitchell as one of your plays there, but we'll see where else you're going. All right, everyone. Appreciate you watching today, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck with all your bets tonight.
Bettor Sports Betting on the Bettor Sports Network.